Welcome to the Tech and Space Leader Show, where we learn lessons from leaders of the next frontier. I am your host, Lisa Dreher, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest for today, Doug Harvey. He is the VP of Business Development and Marketing at Galaxy Broadband. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Well, thank you, Lisa. It is great to be here and be part of your broadcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for making time to be here. Maybe we can start by having you just give a little bit of background on yourself and Galaxy Broadband.
Okay, for sure. Well, I started in the satellite industry back in 1989, so I'm one of those really old kind of pioneer guys, and started off in the C-band TV distribution model, and then was one of the first companies to launch the TDH satellite TV service in Canada and the US, and then kind of branched off into the first satellite internet company in Canada, and now working with Galaxy and OneWeb here to really take it to the next level with the new LEO satellites. So Galaxy, I mean, I've been with them for 13 years. Galaxy's been in business 32 years, and it's really become the leader in Canadian satellite and satellite integration. I would say that our networks are both a GEO and LEO, so we're providing both of those to industries across the country. We focus in on only enterprise businesses, so you're looking at oil and gas, mining, construction, emergency services. Plus, we work heavily with the Canadian government departments such as RCMP, D&D, and the Navy, to name a few. I would,
Wow.
I would say that Galaxy is really known for their innovations and exceptional customer service. So that kind of wraps it up in a package for you.
Excellent. Okay, so all of those industries that you mentioned are more and more reliant upon mobile communications. What role is satellite playing in supporting some of those industries?
Yeah, great question. I really see satellite developing and changing and evolving to where we're kind of now the sharp end and driving the business forward. So satellite in the past had been really the go-to for fixed communication, fixed sites in remote areas, backhauls, and maritime. But now kind of we're collaborating with other technology companies, including the telcos, to kind of create that new frontier of a kind of an integrated mobile communication network. And I would say that then drives the satellite industry to launch new constellations, using satellite laser in between to lower latency, increase speeds. So you've really got a fiber in the sky now. And I think satellite has really developed into the mainstream communication service, and you're starting to see that in multiple industries and services. So it's really cool to see how it's now being adapted and integrated by the telcos and in other industries.
Right, right. So, for those of us that are living in major metropolitan areas, we kind of are just very spoiled and accustomed to always having connectivity. And
Right.
so it's, sometimes hard to imagine that you could get to a place where there isn't connectivity. So, can you talk a little bit about those, I guess, situations where satellite connectivity really is kind of the only option, and how you're tying that in to the terrestrial networks as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're seeing satellite really integrating into your communication, whether you're remote, rural, or in a metropolitan area. And we're seeing examples every day now of I'm in a metropolitan area, but a disaster or emergencies happen. So that's where primarily right now you're seeing a huge advantage of having this cell to and satellites now helping people communicate. So I would say that would be one, because you're in those kind of circumstances, your cell service would be down, and so that satellite can pick that up. Terrestrial networks always have dead zones, so I think that's a nice way of using satellite to fill in. I would say overloaded cell towers now can be supplemented with satellite, and then everybody's starting to talk it. It's the sat to cell, or the device to device, which is really going to be a major game changer.
Right. Okay. So that's a great segue. So we have heard a lot of news about, potentially being able to connect our just everyday, smartphones to satellite connectivity. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And, how soon is this going to happen? Is Galaxy doing anything in the area of direct to device?
Well, D2D is happening. There has been several tests this year that have been extremely successful. So you've had the T-Mobile and Rogers testing with Starlink. You've had Apple's emergency texting using Globalstar. So that has all gone well. And actually, that during these kind of horrible times that's happening with the hurricanes, that you're seeing now, Starlink getting permission to use it today with Helena's aftermath to deliver those emergency type solutions. So I think that the rollout is going to happen. I think it's going to be a little bit longer than most of us are thinking or hoping for. So the emergency texting is starting now and into the beginning of 2025. And then I think regular texting then will be shortly thereafter. I believe that voice is going to be at the beginning of 2026, leading into video kind of at the end of 2026 into 2027. So I mean, those timelines can change, but I think there's a lot that has to happen. So satellite constellations have to be expanded. It takes more power to broadcast from a cell phone to the satellite than it does from one of our flat panels or ESAs to the satellite. So new satellites have to get launched, constellations have to get expanded. So there's a lot of those things in the background happening, as well as the telco integration that has to happen, and roaming and all those things that we just count on every day, but it's quite sophisticated and it takes a lot of time to integrate that.
Yeah. Do you have any feeling for what the cost may be for those leveraging the satellite connectivity
Yeah,
to
I think
direct to the device?
Yeah, they've been keeping it a little close to the chest, to be honest with you. And some are saying that depending on what service package you have with your mobile uh, service, that it might be incorporated, or there could be an extra package that you would buy onto for that. But at this point, I don't have a really good feeling of what those charges are going to be. But again, I think that everybody's starting to see how valuable those are. And I really think that some of these early adopter networks are going to leverage it to the best of their ability.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's go a little bit broader and this, I guess, pun intended. So what does it take to have this, like a fully functioning broadband mobile coverage solution?
So if we're talking the mobility part, you know what? It's here today. I've been working a lot with OneWeb. We're Galaxy's one of the largest OneWeb distributors in the world right now. And we've deployed the Chimeta Hawk terminal, as well as the Intellian half duplex mobile unit. And we're using it today. It's got amazing coverage across North America. So we've got down in, say, for instance, New Mexico. The state police have it on vehicles down there and are using it. We've got it up here in Canada being used. So it is happening, and it's everywhere. Because the satellites from OneWeb are traveling North Pole, South Pole, it's got tremendous coverage. So every basically square inch of North America, and they're expanding globally from that perspective. So there still are line of sight issues. For instance, if you're going through a tunnel, you will lose connectivity for a couple of seconds while you're under it, but then it snaps back almost immediately when you come out of the tunnel. Also, heavy tree cover would offer some blockage or intermittent coverage from that perspective. But overall, I think it's actually really available today, and I think it is going to be more and more adaptive as industries and like first responders and that start to adapt it into their everyday usage.
Right, right. So you've talked about a few different use cases already. Maybe you can go dig a little bit deeper into a couple of those and just kind of give us examples of how this broadband mobile coverage is utilized and what some of the main use cases are.
Sure. So I talked a little bit about the New Mexican State Police and even police and first responders. They're the easiest because they're the ones that really require it the most to start with here, early adopters. And so, say in the police cruiser, they have their radio network, and during an emergency, it's on P25, but they could just be on their regular network. So as they're driving, they're now starting to get beyond their radio coverage. So they've adapted a kind of an SD-WAN type of approach. So now they would seamlessly switch to LTE. And then as they're driving and they're heading to an area, again, maybe it's beyond where the cell coverage is, and now it seamlessly will fail to satellite. So on the top of the vehicles would be, say, one of Intellion's little half duplex, very small antennas. So to the police officer, there's no difference. They're just continuing to drive, get to the area, but it's now gone from radio to LTE to satellite. So that's going to be used, I would say, for police, fire, EMS, as some of those kind of early adapters who need it, and it really has now been able to give them kind of ubiquitous coverage. So it doesn't matter where you go, that you're going to be connected. Newskeeping uses it, so all the major news broadcasters now can give you real-time events, while they're on the move, cameras rolling. I think that's going to bring a new level of news. The other ones would be utility companies, for keeping their workers connected. That's going on trains. So we understand that electronic track control is happening on our trains across North America. So, while they're moving, to have constant satellite communication is key. Buses is another one. They've used LTE for years, but again, there's dead zones, there's areas. So having that fail over into satellite. Another example, Ministry of Natural Resources. So they can be constantly in contact in the remote areas, checking fishing licenses, hunting licenses, lone worker, kind of support from that in a lot of different industries is going to be a key. In the past, they'd had relied on radios and that. Well, now you've got satellite coverage wherever you go.
Wow. Yeah, amazing. So very exciting. So I want to end with one last question, and that is, if you were to make a prediction about the future of mobile broadband connectivity, what would it be?
I'm going to say the connected car. I think that is just starting now, and it's only going to develop further and further. I think the opportunity to have M to M, so cars to car happening, um, that really does so many things for us. It allows an increased position of safety. So by having the cars talking, we can make sure that safe distances and accidents and all that are mitigated. I would also say that the connected car would allow input from the environment for, let's say there's construction ahead or there's washed out roads or whatever. That communication can be then transmitted back to the vehicle. And then I would say the last one would be the car maintenance and service and all that. So to me, I'm going to go out there and say it's going to be the connected car.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think we're all ready for that as soon as it happens. So, if somebody wanted to learn more about Galaxy Broadband, what should they do?
They could log on to our website at galaxybroadband.ca and go to our mobile commercial network page and learn how we're connecting, trains and ships and vehicles today with private networks, with pooled bandwidth, and integrating that all together with 24/7 support. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff Galaxy's doing. I'm really proud to be part of the team that's implementing this. And again, I would say follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn. And thank you, Lisa, for taking the time today to chat with me.
Absolutely our pleasure. Thank you so much for making time to be here. And I do want to also take a moment to thank GuideForce for hosting these sessions. You can learn more about GuideForce at guideforce.com. And we'll see you next time on the Tech and Space Leaders Show.